God bless everybody today. We're going to go through headlines today and line them up with the chart. Okay, so it's going to be that simple. It's pointless to go through the articles when they're pretty self-explanatory in just the headers, and then I can show you how that really relates to what we've been talking to, and I think you'll get it without me going into a whole lot of stuff. So let's just look at a number of these articles. I have about 10 or so, and look at the progression of where we are and what we've been talking about here and how this is possibly going to line up with the timeline as I show you that at the end. So let's look at this. Iran and Hezbollah are strategizing in Beirut over potential Israeli offensive. Okay, the two leaders are deliberating during Ramadan. Ramadan started on basically March 10th, 11th, depending on where you are in the world, and that's going to run to approximately April 9th or 10th, I believe, is the ending there. And then, like I say, you have the 6th, in my opinion, a potential 6th seal event on April 8th. So just put that in your mind as we're working forward. So you have Iran and Hezbollah working together. Hezbollah is not going to allow Iran to be taking the lead here. Iran's going to be in the background because you're not actually into Daniel 8 yet. It's forming, and I'm going to show you that too. And Iran's going to be a target here, but that's going to happen in the future. I'll show you where that occurs. So in this article, it clearly states Hezbollah is going to make sure that Iran is not in the front here. They want them sort of in the background. And you're going to have Turkey coming into this soon, so that's going to compress everything. And I've been talking about this. Hamas, Hezbollah, and these groups are Muslims. They're not Persians. They're not Iranians. And so Iran's going to find themselves in an extremely interesting position when they've been funneling all these weapons and things to these groups for them to basically get ready to turn on them as you walk into a Daniel 8 effect here soon. And I'm going to show you why that's going to happen. Now this article really put something in my head that I think we need to discuss here. Okay, so tens of thousands of peacefully attend the first day prayer on Friday for Ramadan on the Temple Mount. So you have estimation of 80,000 Muslims around the Temple Mount. Okay, this is a large quantity of Muslims. Sorry, my screen's not working real good tonight. This is a large group of Muslims in Israel while they're being attacked by Muslim groups. I'm sure security is extremely high. I've talked about a build-up and potential siege on March 23rd. And if you think about it, if Hezbollah is getting ready to break out with Iran's blessing, but Iran's not going to get in the war because it's not their time yet due to Daniel 8 isn't happening yet, then you have a huge population of Muslims in Israel right now. And I talked about how, and I don't know if it's going to happen, it's just in the paradigm, and it's something that I found that reflects past to future, could happen. Not saying I'm dogmatic and it's going to. I'm just saying it's a possibility. So the president of Israel might be captured on that first day of siege, just as it happened in the past. So this isn't out of the, it's not out of the realm of non-possibility. It is a possibility with all these different Muslims. Okay, so let's say Hezbollah would attack during Ramadan. Well, all these people are there. And what's really weird is they are doing this on a Friday. Okay, well, 22nd is a Friday. I've talked about how the 23rd would be a siege on Jerusalem. So maybe they already have this planned out. They've been talking for years and months, at least in the last few months, but a lot of these things, even the Hamas attack had been indicated that it had been planned for years. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. If you get 80,000 Muslims attacking the Jews in Israel on this date because for some reason it turns violent and they just get overrun, Isaac Herzog could be in a very vulnerable position. I'm just throwing it down. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I still say Hezbollah possibly has even potential tunnels under Israel, just like they did on the other side in Hamas. Look, there's a lot going on here. And with this kind of event sequence happening in front of us, you have to think about what could happen if this turns unpeaceful. There is a ramping up of the Muslims. Look, I've shown you the articles. They're ramping up. They're telling you they're getting ready to do something. I don't know what to tell you. Even Iran is in conjunction with them, and even Turkey, as you're going to see here soon, is starting to ramp this up. So I'm just saying, this is sort of what I've been talking about, that we might be in a position to where, Isaac Herzog or just Israel is in an extremely precarious position, and they have an overwhelming force based on, look, I've been talking about this for a while. What? 2 Kings 24, verse 1 and 2. Turkey will prepare and actually invade Iraq and Syria. That will then end up taking the Kurds into a position to where they have to flee and go and end up joining Iran. So that's Persia. Once that happens, then Turkey crushes them. But that's not during this first siege. That happens in the second siege. We talked about this. They have a first siege where Isaac Herzog captured, they put his son in, and then they come back on a second siege while Reuben Rivlin or Zedekiah is in position. Okay? That's how the narrative works here, guys. You got 2 sieges, one coming up now, and one 18 months later. I've talked about this. Zedekiah is in position for 18 months. This is a past to future prophecy that's getting ready to happen, so we should be able to follow the script. So you have all these Muslims in there. I'm not saying they're all radical. I'm not saying they're all going to do this. But think how 80,000 of them. How many of them, even if you had a small percentage, it could be devastating to the country if they decide to become, or maybe, I'm not going to get on anybody's side here. Maybe the guy that runs the Temple Mount security does something stupid. I've talked about him. Come on, man. You're really pushing buttons that you might make these people mad, and they might do something which would then do something like a prophecy. Okay? It's not uncommon that one thing triggers global things. Sometimes wars and stuff. I'm just saying, that's the way that works. So let's look at this next article. So in this article, they're talking about how the White House thinks that Hamas's response to this absurd response. I'm telling you guys, look at what they're trying to do here. They're never going to agree. Netanyahu's not going to agree to this. Okay, but Biden's administration is starting to become anti-Israel, okay, and more pro-Hamas because they're walking into an election cycle. They need the votes of that really left liberal base out there that really supports Hamas, especially in these areas like Michigan and stuff, okay? Look at the groups. They're high Muslim groups up there, okay? And there's got to be radicalized sections up in those areas, okay? I don't know what goes on up there. I'm not going to get into that. But if you look at even how they vote, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Look, the White House is starting to back out against Israel. It says all nations will leave them. They'll be out there on their own. No one's going to come to their support. No one's going to take care of their problems. They're just going to get left out here. Okay? So look at some of I'm not going to go into this. You want to go look at the, terms of agreement that Hamas is throwing down on Israel, and you think this is fair? They're not going for this, okay? They want 1,000 prisoners in exchange for 40 hostages. Okay, now, come on. And then there's other absurd things. Most of these are hardened prisoners that have done something to Israel in the past. That's probably not all of them. Everybody's innocent until they're proven guilty. I don't know what they did, but a lot of these are security prisoners. So what I mean by that is they're in there for a reason, probably due to some violence against the Jews, okay? So this is the first Friday. Wait till the second Friday hits, and then you walk into the 23rd during Purim. And I talked about how you possibly would see 10 full nations literally come together. Iran, Turkey, everybody's in the game now, guys. Africa, everybody that we've talked about. The 10 nations are lining up for an attack on Israel probably around 23rd. So in this article, Schumer is throwing anti-Netanyahu speech down, which is basically stunning Israel. And the reason for this is because he's talking about disbanding Netanyahu's government to bring in someone that's more empathetic to the Palestinians' plight down there. Even though I don't know why he's not equating that there's going to be a breakout in the north. He needs to understand these politicians really aren't that intelligent. Okay, so you got Hezbollah getting ready to break out. You got Turkey coming in. He's talking about this thing with Hamas down there in Rafah, and we're going to talk about that in a second, where they're going in now. Netanyahu has said they're going to go in. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So he's now throwing this down because they're in an election cycle. Okay? They have to get Joe Biden reelected. And a lot of their blue states like Michigan, and I don't know where they're all at because I don't follow politics that much, but like Michigan's high Muslim population. And they're turning against him because they support Hamas. Well, we're a Christian nation. We shouldn't be supporting Hamas, okay? But now they're starting to go the other way. And see, that's what I mean. They're starting to transform to the other side, guys. You got to understand what's going on here. These are not Christian people that are helping our country. They are actually going against Israel, okay? It's going to get ugly because they're not going to support Israel here soon. So Netanyahu they're trying to oust him. They're just trying to get rid of him. But Netanyahu knows one thing, and this is his whole, look, if you want to understand Netanyahu's process of what he's thinking, he knows this, and I can tell you exactly what he's thinking. I'm a country of the size of New Jersey. I spent 70 years fighting Hamas down here, and now he's not thinking this, but I know they've done some bad things to Hamas too. It's a back and forth thing over the last 70 years. I'm not going to get into that. He's looking at Hezbollah going, okay, they're getting ready to, we're going in against them. They're coming in against us, and we're going to deal with that. But you got to understand, in Netanyahu's mind, he knows one thing, that if he does not eliminate both threats on both sides of him, Israel will not be a nation soon, because they will finally lose this battle and they'll close in on this small little nation the size of New Jersey, and it will collapse, and it'll turn out bad. And this is something I tried to explain to my Muslim friends. Look, you have a nation in here, and I don't know, there's a lot of history there. They think that, the Palestinians own part of this land, and Israel thinks they own part of this land. And so, like I said, it's a war between the Philistines and the Jews right now. It goes back in history. You can see the history repeating in the future. I'm not trying to, go against the Muslims. I'm just trying to explain that you have to look at the parallels. I'm not against any being on this planet. The radical ones I don't really want to be around, but we have to understand that. So Netanyahu's, in his mind, he realizes that if he doesn't eliminate Hamas, look, that's what he said. I have to totally eliminate them. Totally. Okay, now he's got a problem in the north with Hezbollah. He's going to have to say the same thing. Do you think the world's going to take this much longer? I mean, they're already in court, going after him. Everybody's coming against Israel. We're backing away from them. Even our top supposedly Jew supporting Democrat is now backing out on them. Okay? This is not going to turn out well. So look, Iran is the head of the snake right now. But Iran is going to get themselves into some trouble because Turkey's going to be the main force that comes in, and then he's going to really mobilize the Muslims against Israel. Iran's going to sort of be in this because they're proxies, and they're going to think, they're going to join originally because the goal in basically this process is the elimination of Israel. Hamas's stated goal in the news, you can go look at it all day long, is the elimination of the state of Israel. If you go to Hezbollah, what's their goal? The elimination of Israel. If you go to Iran, what's their goal? The elimination of Israel. What's Turkey's goal? Their nemesis, the elimination of Israel. If you go look at it, it's the elimination of Israel through the Ottomans, okay? But Turkey's not going to really care to see that Temple Mount damaged, and neither are Hamas and Hezbollah, even though Iran could care less. So Turkey's going to be the actual main factor here that's going to bring the Muslims together, and they're going to then shut the door on Iran here soon because they're going after the Kurds, which is going to end up, the Kurds are going to join Iran and Turkey's going to smash them. But that's coming up in the second siege as we get into that, and I'll talk about that when we get there. So Ramadan's going to ramp up. Everything out here says Ramadan's going to ramp up, and if you go look at the leaders of these nations, that's what they're saying, is they want to use this as a month of rage. So I'm just saying that's probably going to ramp up. I'm not making the stories up. I can show you stories all day long. So the leader of Hezbollah, or this group, says that Israel's army's fatigued and they are supporting Gaza unwaveringly. And you got to understand another thing. Winter's now over. They're in spring. They're going to be able to move the tanks. So Israel's going to go in anyway. But now you think about it, you've got Hezbollah possibly coming in with an invasionary force because they're talking about, that meeting with Iran and Hezbollah. Okay, so Iran's going to sit back and do their thing, launch missiles, different things like that, and control all the different proxies and stuff. But Hezbollah's literally going to do the attack. Okay, and they're going to have the support of Iran in that process. And they're bringing in all these different groups all at the same time while you have 80,000 people sitting on the Temple Mount that could, a large portion or even a small portion of them could break out in the middle of all this as it's ramping up into the end of Ramadan, which doesn't end till like April 9th. I mean, you got a ways to go here. You still got the 29th as a possible date when that could be the third Friday. And then when you get into, which is sort of interesting, you get into the fourth Friday, that's actually the 5th. And we're talking about the 8th coming up with that event right before the end of Ramadan. So I just think each time you're going to see one of these events, it's going to become less and less peaceful. And it's just going to keep causing more and more problems up there. It's going to break out. There's no way they're going to get along. You've got high density problems here. It's just going to be terrible. So let's go to the next article. So Netanyahu now has approved the plans for Rafah against Hamas. So that is now going to re-ramp up. And they're not going to approve this stupid terms that Hamas and the White House is trying to shove down their throat. It's just not a viable option. And so it's not going to happen. That's why there's no ceasefire. I've been talking about no ceasefire for a while. They're not going to get one. The terms are insane. They're not going to agree to this. Netanyahu's plan is to eliminate these groups. He doesn't have a choice. He's got 85,000 people on the northern border in Israel that can't get home, and most of those homes don't exist anymore because they've been destroyed. So there's going to be a lot of rebuilding if it happens ever. Probably not, because we're where we are, of settlements or something someday, because there's not a lot of homes there for these people to go back to. So in this article, you're watching the actual formation of Daniel 8. Iraq is now banning the Kurds or the Medes because Turkey's getting ready to do a massive invasion, which is the next article I'm going to show you. That was just like 4 days ago. They stated they're going to do a huge, massive invasion into both Iraq and Syria. That's going to ramp up. But in that same process, Erdogan's been talking to Iraq basically so that he can gain ground down there and keep the PKK pushed up to him so he can squeeze them, okay? I've talked about how they're going to squeeze them. I've talked about this for years. They're going to squeeze them, and they're going to squeeze them over to the point where they have to flee towards Erbil, okay? But they'll be so damaged that they'll have to go there, and then Turkey's going to drive down towards Israel and towards Egypt, okay? But you're starting to see that form. They're going to go in big time, okay? Let's go look at that article real quick. And actually I have 2 articles I want to cover. One is Turkish President Erdogan plans a mass military operation in both Iraq and Syria against PKK. This was on the 11th. We're in the 15th. Okay, I've been talking about how this is going to ramp up. Turkey's going to get prepared to invade. Hezbollah is going to break out. You got the Temple Mount thing going on. It's all going to break out here. They're probably looking at a very specific time of like next Friday, getting ready to go into Purim, because they're all going to be on the Temple Mount and allowed to be there during that Friday. It's just logic. I'm not saying it will happen, but there's a high probability it could. So he's going to really break out here, and that's going to compress this whole Middle East, dude. When this comes out, when he starts to come down, it's going to compress everything. The refugee situation is going to be beyond anything that is going to be controlled. That's what I mean. I don't know how people are going to deal with this on the ground. They're going to be squeezed into places they've never been to. But the Kurds are going to be squeezed east towards Erbil. Then they're going to collapse towards Baghdad. And then they're going to collapse towards Shush. And then they're going to join Iran. And then Turkey's going to come over and smash them. Because Turkey's bad. They're the second largest army in NATO, and they just got a whole bunch of new F-16s, and they got a massive drone factory, biggest one in the world. And Turkey's, people really underestimate this guy. Look, this guy he's an ideologue. He is so committed to his legacy and rebuilding the Ottoman Empire in the new 100th year. Okay, so he wants to make his legacy for the next 100 years because they just finished the first 100 years out. There's a plan here. He's been talking about this forever. I don't know why nobody sees this stuff. Anyway, Turkey's breaking out. You just realize it. And now you have the PKK coming out basically talking about how Turkey is going to be it's going to change the Middle East. Guys, that's just that simple. I mean, if you can't see how Turkey isn't going to come in with everything they got because they're trying to protect their border, but they've got like, you know what, if this is biblical and he's the white horseman, Erdogan's the white horseman, then he's getting ready to go against Israel. Now, I'm not saying they're going to get down there, but you now have 10 nations. Even the Iran's on board this very time. You got the South African nations down there that are, you know, becoming very hostile, and Turkey's been working. Look, I've shown you all these different articles about all these different areas about the 10 nation kings and this 3 areas down in Africa, and how Turkey's been down there building relationships forever. Okay, all that's been forming forever. They're all unified as a beast. You know, it's not really the beast system yet, but they're one set of 10 nations that are getting ready to go against Israel. Probably around the 22nd or 3rd of March, because they're all going to be on the Temple Mount on Friday, okay? I maybe not this Friday, maybe it'll be 29th. Or it could even be that next Friday before Ramadan ends, okay? I'm not going to get dogmatic here. I don't know what day exactly, but I'm guessing it'll happen on one of those dates. Right now I'm leaning towards 23rd because I have to have a 15-day siege on Jerusalem before they're destroyed by a 6th seal. So I'm just saying it makes sense. You got a lot going on here, guys. So let's go look at the chart, and I'll try to explain everything real quick. So all this stuff's coming, guys, and you need to get ready because things are going to really break out. I've been warning you forever. I'm passionate about this because I want you to do something and get your oil ready. I've been talking about getting your oil ready forever. It's not just spiritual oil. It's physical oil. Everything's prepped, man. He wants you ready in every level of your life, not just spiritual. He wants it physical. He wants it everything. He wants to know that you're getting ready for this terrible time coming up, and it's coming. It's right now. So go to endofdaysurvival.com. Come down here, click on this one. I just updated this on the 11th. That takes you to my chart. I can show you this in real time. So when you get on the chart, if you've been in my channel, you know the chart somewhat. You're in this area here, okay? So I'm going to zoom in on this area here because it's extremely important you know where you are in time. And you can see the dates here, but like I say, we're coming into here. So let me zoom in and I'll bring you up to date. So it's pretty easy to understand where you guys are on the chart. You got April 5th of 23 here, and over here you got April 20th of 24. Yes, you're almost there. It's about a month away. Okay, so that's how close you are to where we are in this chart. Okay, when you go here, you start in Ramadan on March 10th. Okay, you walking into a formation of 10 nations united by Erdogan, getting ready to attack Israel. Okay. Also, it widens against the Kurds. Look, my chart's been talking about this stuff forever. I haven't really changed that much. Little things move down the line because it's clarifying right now and we can see it better. It doesn't change that much. So Iran and both Turkey are ending the war. Iran's going to stay in the background. Turkey's coming in with a full assault on the Kurds. That's going to start Daniel 8, but Daniel 8 won't actually finish till we get over the other side of this on the end here, okay? Daniel 8 actually happens in this area here, okay, during this secondary siege, because look, Turkey's going to be decimated on the 6th trumpet over here, okay? I'll show you that in a second. But the second siege is when Antichrist is now on the ground, and you see him go against Egypt, and then he goes back to Tyre, Iran, or Tyre, Lebanon, and then he compresses the Kurds again. They join Iran, and then he comes back to Israel for the secondary siege. So I hope that made sense. But there's a transition. Erdogan will attack Israel first, when potentially that time when Isaac Herzog can be captured and his son or whoever will take over. Isaac Herzog would be captured. I talked about how he might be captured because they have all these people in the temple, and he might be in a vulnerable position where they might be overrun and they know where he's at. It's not really that hard to understand that this could happen. It happened in the past. It might happen in the future. Talk about a past and future prophecy. So you might have that happen. So you have the 10 nations forming. Erdogan's uniting the Muslims. He's been doing this for a while. He's getting ready to go against Israel, but he's going to go against the Kurds. So he's in the war. He's actually starting to control the playing field, and he will control the Muslims. He won't. Look, the Persians are not going to be in very good condition here because they're going to turn on the Persians here. But Iran will be in this original attack against Israel because their stated goal is that they're all going to come together as one mind, attack as one nation for 15 days or about an hour of power. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. But that won't end up good for Iran when you get to the other side of the equation over here. So you get these 10 nations are forming. Turkey's coming into the game. Iran's been in the game for 2 decades now. Anyway, they're still the head of the snake. You have the spring equinox come in. Look, Purim comes in on the 23rd. We just talked about how the 22nd was the next meeting of all the Muslims on the Temple Mount. There's going to be approximately 80,000 of them. I don't know if they have a plan for that night. I do believe that on one of the Fridays leading up to the end of Ramadan, you will see a breakout of something on Israel through that event, and actually Hezbollah will attack. Well, Hezbollah is getting ready to attack, so I'm guessing it's going to be fairly soon because they just the okay again with Iran. They just had their meeting, so they're probably going to go in. Okay, that's on Purim. Okay, Friday before Purim, Isaac Herzog could be captured. I've talked about this for a while and how it's the part of the paradigm of 3 modern-day kings, and it might play out just as it did in the past when Israel and Jerusalem were attacked originally by Nebuchadnezzar. What happened? The leader of Israel was captured and taken away for 3 years. And then he rebelled later against in this case, he'll break out again, which, okay, it's 24. He'll get released in 27. Okay, so you're way over here. And he'll fight Antichrist. Okay, so somehow he gets released. Okay, so I just wanted to show you where that worked in. Okay, now you got possibly a 6th seal event, because now if they attack on Purim, it's 15 days to that global eclipse, or it's a solar eclipse, totality over the United States. You got 6 planets aligning up, the sun and moon all aligning up. You have a devil comet going through while Ramadan's going on, while you had a ramp up right after the temple visitation on Friday. You got the 23rd going on here, so that possibly might affect you because you got a 15-day gap between March 23rd and April 8th. So I think that's extremely important. So I'm talking about a potential 6th seal event here where the 10 nations of Muslims are destroyed by the wrath of Jesus or the Lamb, which is, you know, he's revenging the people of the 5th seal at that time that have died through all the carnage that's happened up to that point. That's what's going on there. But that's a terrible day for the earth if you know what the 6th seal is, and then you have Ramadan ends. Okay? So that's what I mean. If you line up the news articles of today, you realize that they line up with the past almost identical. I've been explaining this for a while. It's a past to future thing. I don't know why my screen's doing that. Anyway, it's a past to future thing. If you understand that, you'll understand a lot about what's going on out here. Look, anytime you want to learn about something, go back in the history of things and find out what happened. When you find out about the history of things and you know how it happened in the past, it plays out usually in the future because man's not very good about figuring out anything. And then look what happens. If you have that 6th seal event, that takes you into the end of Ramadan, probably getting ready for a resurrection of Antichrist and a signing of a treaty so you can get into these 1260 days to the Feast of Trumpets. of October 2nd to 27. Okay? Anyway, God bless you. Watch the news. You're walking into a real storm. This is the perfect storm. You should be ready for the storm, people. If you're only getting, I just had this conversation and I'm trying to get across to her, you can't just do spiritual oil here. He told you that if you don't get ready for this 1260-day period where the Gentiles are trampling the city and we're here dealing with Antichrist, which is getting ready to come out, that we won't have enough oil because, look, let me explain something to you guys. When you get to here, when you get to this date, you now have an Antichrist signing a treaty with all the Muslim nations because he's been resurrected, brought forward as, look, he's going to look like Jesus, but he's not. In a lot of cases, we'll believe in our faith that he's Allah, okay? Or something like that, okay? I don't know much. I'm learning a little bit about the Quran to see what they might think or what they think this is. Because look, the Quran is it mimics the Bible in a lot of ways, but then they do things that we don't agree with, like they don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, well, we do. Well, the Jews have the same problem in a lot of ways because they don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. So we have to rectify these kind of things. That's what I'm saying. Everybody's confused down here. It's terrible. So you got this is the beast kingdom forming for 1260 days to the Feast of Trumpets. And I talked about how it has to be a sabbatical Saturday in this Shemitah cycle. And if you go to the Shemitah cycle, you realize that ends on September 9th of 29, and that's the end of this Shemitah cycle. What has to happen within the Shemitah cycle of the Jews, they believe this. And it has to happen before the strong generation of the Jews completion. So then it takes you back to the Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Feast of Trumpets here. I'm sorry, I was at the wrong place there. Feast of Trumpets. And what this is this is a sabbatical Saturday. Now, I was just looking at the other two Feasts of Trumpets between 28 and 29 before we get to the end of the Shemitah cycle. Neither of them fall on a sabbatical Saturday. They fall on like a Monday or a Wednesday. It's a 2-day event, but I've always stated it has to happen on a sabbatical Saturday. So if it falls within this Shemitah cycle, it would make sense that it would have to happen during this Feast of Trumpets because it can't happen really not on a Saturday or the Sabbath when the Lord would then have the East Gate open and the temple be open as it states. Okay, I'm just saying there's a process that has to happen here. So if you look at the Feast of Trumpets of 28 and 29, they don't fall on a sabbatical Saturday anywhere. They fall on like a Monday or a Wednesday, and it runs 2 days, okay? So that's another reason I think that we have to look at this event date as a potential, what I consider, a rapture or whatever everybody wants to call it. It's basically taking up the dead in Christ first and then the living in Christ from great tribulation, okay? That's what's going on there. Everybody wants to call it the rapture. But if you go to 1 Thessalonians 4, what does it say? The dead in Christ rise first, and then the living in Christ. Why? Because they made it through great tribulation. But the wrath's getting ready to be poured down. So that's pretty easy to understand. So I just wanted to break this out so you understand where you are. Look, Daniel 8's going to come up, but you got to have Antichrist on the ground, because what's going to happen is once he gets decimated on the 6th seal, let me get to there. Let me go back real quick. So when he gets decimated on the 6th seal over here, He's buried, comes back as Antichrist. The 4 regions form from the 10 nations. Antichrist overthrows the 3 regions, signs the treaty with that beast kingdom. So it's the 10 nations signing the treaty, not what all these other people think. It's going to be against the Christians and the Jews. It'll be the 10 nations of these footprint of Muslims, Alexander the Great's footprint, the Ottomans' footprint, whatever you want to call it, and that will take you into the 1260 days. Okay? But when you get to the point where Antichrist comes out from those 4 regions and overthrows them and actually takes over, and this starts that beast system that you can't be part of into the 1260 days, he then goes down to Egypt. And then we talked, this is how Alexander did it. He attacked, look, I know there's no transition in Alexander's time, but it's the same path. He went to Tyre. Turkey comes out of Turkey to Syria. They go to Tyre, Lebanon. They go down through Israel, attack them the first time. They're decimated. He comes back as Antichrist. He forms the nations again as a beast kingdom. They then go against Egypt. Okay? He then comes back to what? Tyre, Lebanon, through Israel. He goes from there. He then goes to the Kurds. He starts to drive the Kurds towards Erbil. They fall, collapse to Baghdad towards Iran. Okay? Then the Kurds join Iran. Once that juncture happens, we see what? The destruction of Iran by Turkey, which takes you to here. Okay, the second siege. But Iran will come back. Okay, once Iran falls, then Turkey, or Antichrist in this case, will come against Israel for the second time, I guess is what I'm saying over here. But you have this transition to where Antichrist goes against Egypt. They come back to Tyre. They drive the Kurds to Erbil. That Gogmela thing happens that I've talked about so many times. They drop down to Iran. They collapse into Iran itself. Iran says, okay, I guess we have to align with you because we have a high population of Kurdish people. And so they align, and then what happens? Turkey comes down, crushes them. But after they crush Iran, they then go back against Israel during the secondary siege. So I'm trying to restate that so it makes sense. Look, the process is the same. Okay? You have to look at the history. Now, they didn't have an Antichrist. I mean, I'll give him that. It's not exactly the same. Because now they've had Antichrist type kings, Nero, things like that. But look, this is something we have to work through today from the past. He gives you a manual called the Bible that gives you all this information so you have this map to the end so you can look at history and see how it's going to play out in the future. And if you can decipher all that, you can see it coming, okay? That way you can prepare your oil and get ready for it so that you can get to the end of the picture, which is on the Feast of Trumpets here, okay? Probably on this day because it's sabbatical Saturday, but I don't know for sure. I'm not dogmatic here. It could happen anytime. In my opinion, I'm not throwing this down saying you have to believe anything I say here, guys. And that's the other thing. I guess people think I'm so dogmatic that I'm throwing this down that you have to believe me. I'm just throwing down my analysis and giving you the best thing I can. Look, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. I'm just trying to warn you that I think this is coming. Anyway, if you get to October 2nd of 27, you're at rapture because you've gone through the 1260 days. And you're not here for the appointed for the wrath, which happens in Revelation 15, 1 and 2. So when you get here, you're not here anymore. And I'm guessing it happens probably on one of these days. I'm just guessing. It's my guessing. Why everybody like, what happens on this? I'm guessing you got to follow the fall feast. The Jews say he's going to fulfill them, so you got to look at the fall feast. Look, if you're trying to line all this up just through the Christian eye and you don't bring the Jews into this and look at their Hebrew calendars and you look at the Torah and you look at all the things that they have to offer to this equation, like the feasts and things like that, you are never going to understand this completely. There is so much more here than this one book called the Bible, because this radiates off the Jews. Okay, even their old books are built in Hebrew, and then they were given to, look, Peter is the rock there, okay, for the Jews, and then we got Paul, okay. Paul took that to our nations, and there's two groups here, okay. But we're joined as one. We're grafted together. That's what he says. So I have to believe what he says. We're grafted together. And so we have to think about that. So when you get to these things, you need to understand. Look, you guys need to understand. You are here. You're so here. I can't even tell you how here you are. You are walking into madness here. Oh, I gotta get to the chart. April 8th's coming, guys. Now I won't be dogmatic and tell you that it's gonna happen. Maybe you'll look up. Oh, I thought about this. You know, this is going to be a longer video, but I'm going to do it anyway. This was brought to my attention, an article, and I'm going to throw it down because I had a thought that just blew me away, and it was almost paralyzing. I'm like, oh no. None of those, oh no. Okay, so there was an article in the news that stated that, you know, we've had these warnings from NASA about this maybe gravitational pull and how this astrological event on the 8th and all these different things coming up could affect the planet. We got the eclipse going over the New Madrid Fault. It's overdue. There could be a lot of things that could happen. But think about this. So one of the articles stated that you had to start, and it caught my attention because I couldn't understand at first what it meant until I went in and read the article. And it said, the header was, look, you need to stock up on food and water and stuff because of this eclipse on April 8th. And I'm thinking, wow, even the government's warning about this. Isn't that crazy? But when you go in, what they were saying is this. Look, there's going to be like a flood of people to these areas that the eclipse goes over for this 4 minutes. And so they're going to run out of like everything on the shelves because they're going to be people coming from hundreds of miles. Look, there's a lot of stargazers out there. People are going to be coming from hundreds of miles to come to these areas, and all the supplies are going to get taken up. The rooms are going to get rented. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting event because you've got the Devil Comet, you got all these planets aligned, you've got the total eclipse, and it's going to be a much more visible thing this year because of the totality of the darkness in this zone of totality. So these people are flooding into this area, and they're going to buy up everything. So they're telling everybody in those towns, stock up now, man, because if you don't stock up, there's not going to be anything left by the time these guys leave. It's going to be like going to a rock fest, and there's just no left at the end. It's just paper and stuff laying around, and you're like, wow, I wouldn't want to clean it up. Anyway, I'm going to the car. That's what I mean. So, but think about that. So you got all these people compressing into an area, and you then have maybe, as they're out there gazing and they're out in, look, I'm not hoping for anything like this. You have to think about what could happen in these cases, man. That's all I'm saying. So you got all these people in the stripper zone across the whole United States that's coming out to see this event. And then a sixth seal pops on them. I don't necessarily, that's like, I was trying to explain to somebody, you ever watched the movie Independence Day? And the aliens are there, and everybody's so excited that the aliens are there that they're going to go up to the top of the skyscrapers and put their liners up there and welcome them. And what happens to them? They nuke them. This is one of those kind of events that could, I don't know if you really want to put yourself in that condition, but I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying there's a possibility it could turn out bad in my world. I'm just throwing it down as a possibility. Look, if you have these, especially over the New Madrid fault, it scares me to death to think about this. All these people are going to be flocking to these areas, and if you have the New Madrid fault pop, what would that do? What would it do? You go back in the 1800s, 1811, 12, they had like 3, 7 to 8-point Richter earthquakes that devastated 80% of the buildings like 200 miles out. Radius was insane. It leveled things, everything. I think we need to understand what the possibilities are here. And I'm not trying to throw scare tactics down. Look, if you are in the SEALs and you're moving to a 6 SEAL event, after I just showed you all these articles that line up with what I've been talking about for, I can't remember when, in a time span that I've been talking about for a while, years now, then I feel for you if you put yourself in a position that you might not be ready for what might come. I can see it from where I am from my house. I don't have to go to the zone. It'll be good enough. I can see, and it'll be really dark. You'll be able to see the devil comet, maybe. It says you might be able to. You might be able to see the alignment of the planets, so you'll see all these spots like all together. You'll see the totality of the darkness. And if you look at the eclipse itself, because of the totality of the darkness itself, it will be a much brighter aura around that, around it anyway. So that will be cool to see. But I don't want to do it in the zone. I'd rather do it from my home. I mean, if you want to go to the zone, that's up to you. I'll stick it out, and I know it doesn't happen for another how many every years, but I'll just stay in my zone. But so, no, look, I never want bad things. That's why I warn people of stuff like this. You can do what you want. I'm not going to say don't do anything or not to do anything. Listen, anytime I say something, I'm just giving you information. You have to take and assimilate that information and discern whether you want to do anything with it at all. Maybe you just don't care. Maybe you think it doesn't matter. Or maybe it does matter. Or maybe you'll see certain things happen and then maybe it will matter over time. But I'm just saying, it looks to me like these events are starting to pop as we move into these dates I've been talking about. So I try to bring you up to date constantly. So what has happened? Hezbollah is getting ready to attack. They just had a thing with Iran. Turkey's getting ready to do a massive, not just a little bit, a massive invasion into both Syria and Iraq against the Kurds. The Kurds are going to have to react to that. It's just that simple. But when that happens, look, when you get this siege on Jerusalem by Hezbollah and those groups, that's your siege. They're all working together to accomplish the same goal, though. The thing you need to understand, though, is Turkey will not allow anything to happen to the temple. And if you understand that, then you'll understand that Turkey will take control of this situation. Iran will be portionally in this to start with, but they're not going to do well once they get over here. Okay? And look at that. Turkey's going to push back. It's all in the charts, guys. All that's in the chart. Just what I explained is in the charts. It's all here. I haven't changed any of this in I don't know how long. Been explaining to you guys this for a while. I've been changing a little bit of this because you have to adjust this in real time. I think we have a pretty good picture now where we are. It's pretty clear. You can look, you tell me. I'm just showing you what I think is going to happen. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with any of it. If you don't like the message, you don't even have to be here. I'm not here trying to dogmatically throw anything down on you. I'm concerned that you're in a considerably bad condition here, and that you aren't, if you're only putting spiritual oil in your lamp, that's probably not going to get you to where we're going here. Because you're going to know, look, you're going to know in weeks, we're here. If it doesn't happen, then I'll come out here and I'll say, hey, I'm sorry I got it wrong. We're in the wrong Shemitah cycle, I guess. But I hope that's not the case. But if that's the case, if that doesn't happen now in this Shemitah cycle during the strong generation and the Feast of Trumpets, that takes you into the next Shemitah cycle between 29 and like 36. I brought that up to somebody's attention the other day, and they're looking at me going, man, we won't last that long. And I'm like, okay, so when you say something to me like that, that confirms to me right there that you know that we won't get that far down the road. And I don't have to say anything when I say that. Do you really think you're going to get, look, if you go into the next Shemitah cycle, and this isn't what it is now, then you start this play all over again in the next Shemitah cycle, okay? The seals, the birth pains, you start going through the whole process all over again. Now, I don't know about you, but I really don't want to go through this to 36. I mean, that would be horrific. I don't think most people could take it. So you have to think about these kind of things. You have to look, God is logic, pure logic. You can't even get in his head, it's so logical. But you have to make logical sense of what he's telling you. Okay? And he laid it out in a way that we can actually decipher it. Look, when you go into John, when he has that vision, it tells you what in the end? That he didn't quite understand it. Because the vision wasn't for his time. And what is he told? To seal it up to the end. Because it's not for you, John. It's not for this time. It's for what time? The latter days. And then, when it gets to that time, it will be revealed to you, because I'm not going to leave you in the dark. It's called Revelation for a reason. Look, when you go to John 4:1, and he's taken into heaven, right there it tells you it's a latter day event. I'm so tired of people saying that the seals are a history lesson that's been occurring for 2,000 years, and we've been in the seals for 2,000 years. They're just wrong. Go to John, Revelation 4:1. What does it tell you? John is taken up there to see a latter day vision. Okay? Right there. So now you're in a latter day vision. You're not in the past. You're in now. John didn't quite get it. And at the end, he was told, look, you're going to shut the book up and you're going to seal it and you're going to do your thing, because you'll never understand it. They will, though, when we get there. And I'll unveil it to them so that they understand it. And he's showing you what's going on, and he's showing me what's going on. You may not agree with my message. I don't know if it's going to happen for sure. I'm not dogmatic in this. I'm still on pins and needles waiting to see if this stuff's going to actually play out. It seems like it is, or it's pretty close. So I want to know that you guys at least have the information, and you have to discern what to do with it. Look, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm not that way. I'm concerned for your condition. spiritually, physically, and in every way, because I want you to get to the Feast of Trumpets of 27 and be taken out of here. If you die, yes, you will rise in Jesus and go to heaven. But I don't want to die in this world. So, and I'm sure you don't either. So God bless and have a great night. And be safe out there. And please get ready. This is so important.